My name is Kyle Forrest. I'm the Future of HR leader from Deloitte. Thrilled to be here to bring it home right before the closing keynote. For those of you who are from the East Coast, thank you for hanging out. Hopefully you are not taking a red eye tonight and you are enjoying the beautiful views one more day and maybe even staying for the weekend. We're going to set up the story that Fortive is going to tell by sharing a little bit of information from our 2025 Human Capital Trends report. This is not a HR report. These are not HR issues. These are business issues that business leaders are tackling to drive outcomes for their business and the humans within their business, whether that is the workers or their customers. In 2024, in our report, we actually put a call to action for organizations that as you make decisions, you need to be thinking about both the business and the human outcomes that are going to occur as a result of that decision. Because if you can't tell that story, and if you're not thinking about those things, you might have an unintended consequence relative to one of those things, right? I might make a business decision that didn't think about the human implications, and therefore I have an erosion of trust. I have a spike in attrition. I have a decline in candidates, right? On the flip side, if I overly rotate it on the humans, I may not be achieving some of the business outcomes I'm trying to get relative to innovation or new product launch, speed to market, or new market entry, right? Now, as we were preparing for 2025 and what we were seeing in the market relative to some of the trends that organizations were tackling, we really noticed a lot of external and internal factors that companies are grappling with as they try to make some of those decisions. And so that really led into our theme for this year's report about how can organizations turn tension into triumph? Or how can you help leaders transform uncertainty into opportunity? And one of the ways that we believe you can do that is by anchoring on business and human outcomes at the same time, right? And we believe that as you address some of these tensions within an organization, you acknowledge that each tension is not an either or. It is a both and. So in the last 24 hours, you've been hearing a lot about agentic AI, digital twin, and that is this first tension here that many organizations have been tackling or talking about for the last couple of years. Am I automating work or am I augmenting the humans? The answer is both, right? I am automating certain tasks as I deploy agentic AI, and in doing so, I am enabling the humans to be augmented and drive that much more impact and value for my organization, right? I'm achieving a business outcome and a human outcome. So within our report, there are three themes that we really dug into that I want to kind of tee up for you all that also lays the groundwork for the story that Kara and Linda will tell from Fortive. So that first theme is all around work. How do I, as a business leader, as a manager, as a worker, how do I ensure that the right work is being done the right way? And because I want you all to stay awake as we close in, I'll ask for a show of hands. Who's grappling with this at their organization today? I saw a hand fly up over here. A number of other hands, right? Anyone who is here who is thinking about or who's already implemented Eightfold and is thinking about deploying agentic AI is addressing this question, right? How do I ensure the right work is done the optimal way? And then, is it being done by a human or a machine, right? And a couple of questions that we have here. One of the things I loved from Ashu's keynote yesterday is this age of time. Like, how do we think about time? And a question, a trend that we really dove into is, what do I do with that capacity for the workers or within the organization as I begin to unlock it, right? How do I potentially make work more sustainable for the humans? How do I redeploy it into new and different ways? Like, what do I do with that? And a second question that we really dug into in here is a word that we had to make up. Every consulting firm has to make up one word a year. That word was stagility. And it's because in the data, 75% of workers who responded to the survey, which was more than 13,000 respondents, 90 different countries, 75% of workers wanted more stability at work. 85% of executives wanted more agile teams. How do you reconcile that? Well, can you as leaders, business leaders, help your workers find stability through agility, right? How are you helping the workers understand that change is happening, it is happening faster and faster, and as more AI and automation capabilities get deployed, like the digital twin that Ashu talked about yesterday, where he said 3 to 5 years, maybe that's 2. But how do you help workers be agile and adopt that and get ready to move from there, right? So that then led to our second question, second theme of workforce. How do I access, develop, and enable the necessary workforce? Those were all very intentional words. Access means it's not only an FTE anymore. Part-time, contingent, third party, my digital twin, right? How do I develop those? And you also have to think whether you're going to call it a digital worker, a digital, an AI agent, a tool. I need to be able to develop the capabilities and make sure it's doing the right thing for me, right? And necessary workforce. How do I have the right mix of whatever that is, human and machine, to drive that work forward? And 2 questions that we really dug into that have had a lot of excitement in the market relative to this is how do I actually evolve my employee value proposition to be explicitly AI first? Hey, candidates in the market, when you come here from day one, these are the AI tools we're going to upskill you on. And over the next few years, as your career evolves here, here's how we will continue to upskill and reskill you so that your career evolves. And whether you stay here over time, you will have that employability in the market. And how do I address this experience gap, right? A lot of this AI and automation, there's a lot of stuff, there's an Atlantic article a couple weeks ago that's like, are we in this new college grad, jobs declining? Well, how do I bring that talent in, much of whom is probably the most ready to use these tools, and develop those people to become the leaders of the future, right? Because if I'm not investing in that talent now, a few years down the line, the companies who have are going to have an edge, right? And so then that led us to our third question, which is around a theme of organization culture. Do I have the right organization and culture to enable human performance? If I'm doing the right work with the right workforce, or if I know that this is the right work with the right workforce, but my people are not behaving the right way, I'm not going to achieve the first 2 things, right? And so there were 2 questions that we really got into here. And I'm going to do another quick raise of hands really quick. Who's excited for summer vacation coming up soon? Raise your hand. I see like half the room did not raise your hand. Hopefully you have some vacations planned this summer. Who's had a new hire join their team? Okay. Who's had someone leave their team? So that's a baseline level of change that you deal with on a weekly basis, right? Someone joins, someone leaves, someone takes vacation. We also saw in our research that like 10 years ago, an organization would go through 2 major changes a year. Now it's like 10 major changes. Then throw in macroeconomic, throw in geopolitical, throw in technological, right? So how do you actually motivate people at the individual level to do what you want them to do, to adopt those new behaviors, to adopt that new technology, right? So you have to consider all those factors. And that led to our question around what is the role of the manager going forward? Managers in this survey said they spend 40% of their time on non-value add work. That is either firefighting, problem solving on a daily basis, or, hey, I got to approve this travel. I got to go through the promotion process. I got to go through the merit process. So how can you unlock that capacity from the manager to spend time on what they do best? Making decisions, motivating people, growing their talent, right? And that's where some of the things that have been talked about from an Eightfold perspective could potentially really help redesign work, redeploy capacity of the manager, drive new business outcomes for the organization, and human outcomes for the managers and the workers themselves. So I share all this as a backdrop for the conversation that we're about to dig into, right? And you're going to hear a story of a business and the business issues and business challenges and what the business leaders chose to do right? Because these are not HR issues. These are not something that's only the responsibility of HR leaders. This requires the entire organization to come together and tackle it. So the last thing I'll say for you folks before we then get into the conversation is if you have never read our Human Capital Trends report before, these are the 8 trends underneath those 3 themes. And we also made it much more digestible this year. There are 1-minute videos for each of these trends, and there are infographics. And for those of you who don't like to read anymore, you can feed it to your favorite LLM, and it will spit out a summary for you as well. So with that, I'd like to welcome Sana, Kara, and Linda to the stage, and we'll get into the conversation.
Well, with that, we're really excited to start putting some of the trends into action and how Fortive has basically taken that and helped fuel their transformation. So love to welcome Linda and Kara to the stage. We're going to do a quick get to know you. So if you'd introduce yourself, and then I have a few questions for you.
Hi, everyone. I am Linda. It's great to be here in San Diego with all of you. And I am based out of Phoenix, so sunny and more sun. So it's been great.
And what do you do for a job?
Oh, I'm sorry. You are interested in that as well. At Fortive, I lead all of our technologies and our operations and the transformation of it.
And I'm Kara Beeler. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and I'm the VP of Talent for Fortive.
And I'm Sana Monzo. I'm the leader of our alliance with Eightfold and practice leader. And I had the pleasure to meet Linda 2 years ago at Cultivate. So the value of the conference and connections is real. And we've had a great pleasure of working together over the last few years. This is a beautiful location. And I wanted to just ask you what you like to do in terms of, rejuvenating yourself other than enjoying the sun.
I love to do yoga. And I just learned how to swim as an adult about a year ago, and I've been terrified of swimming for my entire life. And now, ironically, it's become my relaxation. So that is what I do now for relaxation.
It's wonderful. I am a big fan of a pool and a cocktail for relaxation.
Sign me up.
Yeah. After the keynote, you know where we're
like
going.
athletics. I'm like, no, none of that. So Maui is my favorite place to be near a pool with a cocktail.
Very nice. Well, one of the things we found all 4 of us had together is we have daughters. And so many daughters, we could probably field a basketball team, and that's my favorite sport. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, so my daughters love to play soccer. So right now, a lot of what I've been doing is chasing them around as a referee on the youth soccer field. I live in Venice, so also a lot of sun and beach time, frequently with a cocktail as well. Yeah. And so what we'd love to dig into and hear from you all to start, right? We just spoke about these are business issues that organizations are tackling, right? People aren't implementing Eightfold just to solve an HR issue. So can you share a little bit more about Fortive as a business first to just let folks understand your organization, what you do, kind of what your customer base looks like?
Yeah. So Fortive is a portfolio company, which means we own other companies, about $6 billion in revenue, 18,000 employees, and about 20 operating companies contained within that. We are primarily focused on productivity and safety in the healthcare and industrial markets. So all of our operating companies kind of align around those industries and markets. One of the things I think that is interesting about the Fortive model is we've really been intentionally decentralized. We allow a ton of autonomy in the operating companies because we believe that being local, being close to customers, helps drive better innovation. So we've made a very intentional choice to continue to be decentralized. But that does create very interesting challenges for those of us that are trying to get organizational insights and drive talent mobility across so many disparate and really independent companies.
So, with that context, there's been a lot happening in the world. I'm sure at the same time, a lot happening within both the portfolio companies and at the portfolio level. Can you share a little bit about what was going on that sparked Fortive to embark on this transformation journey?
So, a couple of things that I think about if I reflect back to why we started. We looked at our businesses who were demanding better insight into talent, faster hiring, more predictable outcomes of their hiring. And then we connected that to our employees who were wanting more visibility into how to grow their careers. They wanted faster career growth. And we know from our data that internal talent, when moved into a role, is more productive in year one. They have higher performance in year one. They're more likely to be rated as high potential by their managers. And they have a lower risk of attrition in the 2 years following that internal career move. So we knew that the ability to move our talent internally was good for business, right? That drove better business outcomes. But we didn't have a way to integrate and really see or figure out how to do that in any type of systemic, scalable way. So it always happened through terrible things like Excel spreadsheets and phone calls and emails, which was not a great way to do that for 18,000 global employees.
Well, and what I love about the data you shared is not only is that better set of business outcomes, but that's a better set of human outcomes, right? I am getting promoted faster. I am getting to do these new things. I'm ramping into productivity. I'm getting identified as a high performer, high potential, which then takes me on to another next thing, right? And so as you then were all looking at what are you hearing from your managers? What are you hearing that your employees want? Where are you looking externally in terms of the competitive environment and where you want to continue to evolve the business? You know, you had to then make a set of decisions for we're going to go do this, and part of what we're going to do is invest in some technology. And so can you talk a little bit about how technology has played a role in enabling that transformation, and I mean that just in terms of technology broadly?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that first we understood what the business problem was and what's really trying to figure out how we solve these different items. And we had a very complex, like many companies, many HR systems that didn't talk to each other. I remember hearing as part of my interview process, and they said, well, internals can't find jobs. It's easier to go externally and look for jobs than it is for internals. And we're in 50 countries, and it was such a dilemma. We're in 50 countries, we really promote internal mobility, but employees don't see what jobs, and they don't know how to grow. And so we were looking at simplifying our tech stack and really delivering a better employee experience and manager experience for HR as well. And so we looked to simplify, and I was looking to, one of the things was, and so 2 years ago, I was actually here, like many of you, I was here shopping, trying to understand what this company does. I was recruiting and checking out the implementation partners as well to really understand what vendor will fit us and what are we trying to do here and what can the product continue to do. So we really try to enable, look at it and understand our business and enable with technologies.
So Linda, as you looked at that technology portfolio that you had, and then you made some strategic decisions from your organization, can you share a little bit about that? What did you ultimately land on? What does that technology portfolio look like?
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit in regards of we transformed the business as in we changed our operating model. So this was not just a technology implementation, but we standardized, harmonized processes, hundreds of them, still more to go. We created COEs, implemented shared services, and so it was an entire change. And so when we looked at it, we decommissioned multiple systems, multiple ATSs, different sourcing systems. We implemented Eightfold and other technologies as well at the same time. So we implemented a new case management, a new portal, a new ATS, which is Oracle. We have Oracle here, ServiceNow, Eightfold, within 6 months. And so we had this aggressive timeline that we wanted to make sure that we can continue to support our business and change it as well.
And for your strategy, you chose to do talent acquisition and talent management within Eightfold at the same time.
Yes, so it was an ambitious goal, and we delivered. And I want to thank my team. I see a couple of my team members here. It is amazing to see. We implemented TA and TM and the career site within 6 months. And it was very intentional, and an ATS at the same time. So we designed these systems ensuring that what is the employee experience? And we really wanted, because many of you have talked around, implementing TA and TM separately or at the same time. Our intention was to ensure a seamless experience from our external candidate. We attract you. We want to grow you as well. And so for you to have a seamless experience between the two and to match and deliver that great experience. And I would say we continue to build with Eightfold in regards of turning things on or not, but it was very intentional to have TA and TM at the same time together.
And I think that's so powerful, right? When you look at the life cycle of attracting people in the marketplace, and then helping them go through that whole journey of understanding your organization, going through the recruiting process, but know when they get in, you still have that skills insight. So they've already experienced that at the front end of the cycle. So from that skills piece following on through their career is really advantageous for them.
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you want to touch base on that, or do you want me to take that?
Go for it.
I would say, we're 11 months in June will be our year, and it's incredible to see the insights in regards of the talent that we attract, that we grow. We turn on our learning system and integrate it as well. So they're taking courses, and so we can see their interests and their skills building, and from this overall life cycle.
I think right now 75% of all courses being taken are ones that people went in self-identified. This is where I want to go in my career. Help me see how to get there. 75% of all courses that are being taken are the ones that align for people. So it's that, remember the employees wanting to grow and accelerate and see a path. It's giving them the vehicle and putting the power in their hands. And we're seeing that come to life, which is great.
Well, those are two things that you're seeing. What else is coming out in terms of impact of the transformation overall?
We've had some really incredible impacts, again, in less than a year. If I think about, there's been a lot of talk this week about productivity, giving time back. So the first thing I think about is efficiency. Our recruiters today are more than twice as productive as they were pre-transformation.
Wow.
They fill more than 2 times the amount of roles every month as they did before our transformation. That's an efficiency gain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our rediscovery hires, right? So folks that we are rediscovering within our own talent network are up 70%. There's the power of technology there. If I think about effectiveness, right? How do we know that this implementation and we're making progress from an effectiveness perspective? We talked about wanting to bring together internal talent mobility as a key business driver. About 1 in 3 roles today are filled with internal talent. That's a big mover, and a big way that we bring to life our employee value proposition. And we also see the AI getting better and better. Every month we see more roles being calibrated well. We see higher match scores coming through, and then we see lower time to fill in connection to that. So we're seeing that come through. And then experience, right? Linda talked about wanting to ensure that external experience and internal experience are more seamless, more aligned. For our internal folks, for every person that goes to Career Hub, which is what we call this magical place, 2/3 of them come back. That's pretty good, with not a lot of marketing and not a lot of push, right? People are seeing value in it to the point that they're choosing to spend time coming back to that location. And then on the external front, people that come to our career site that start to interact with the technology, I'm told from our friends at Eightfold that the number of people who apply based on coming to our site is about 2x what the industry average is. So we're definitely seeing the impact from the efficiency standpoint, the effectiveness standpoint, and the experience standpoint across the board.
I mean, that's a company bringing to life all those numbers that Chano shared yesterday morning about like 20 days reduction in time to fill, billions saved of finding candidates internally, et cetera. That's powerful.
Yep.
One of the things that you mentioned, and we've talked about quite a bit, is the internal mobility piece. The other thing that you mentioned was from a cultural perspective, you're known in the market for having opportunities across your portfolio of companies, but it's not always easy for people to find those. So what was that cultural change like, and then how did Eightfold help enable that?
So I have a fundamental belief that intelligence and capability are evenly distributed. Opportunity is the thing that isn't.
Yeah.
This was the moment for us to start creating a more equitable world. Like, let's be bold. Let's say a more equitable world, but start in the place where we can have impact, right? So it wasn't just the technology that made the change. We really stepped back and said, how do we bring that to life? How do we really make this a place that all employees can grow based on their intelligence, based on their capability, based on their aspiration, not based on the job you have today? So we moved to what we call an open talent marketplace, which was a big cultural shift. That means we got rid of everything that was like, well, you have to be enrolled for so many months before you're eligible to apply, and your current manager has to sign off. Like, gone. So why? Those folks can apply to jobs externally. Why shouldn't we let them apply to jobs? Why should they have to grow their career more slowly inside our organization than outside? When we know these folks are higher value to us, they contribute more to our organization than people from the outside. So we really had to go through a lot of change management, a lot of conversations with a lot of senior leaders, right, to get people here. But when we moved to that open talent marketplace, that's where we really saw the acceleration. Then you couple that with the technology that came in place to provide visibility to those opportunities. And that's where we see folks engaging with Career Hub, setting up job alerts, reaching out to other managers who don't have roles open, but I want to learn, I want to explore because you have a skill set that interests me. And then we see the pull-through of all the goodness in that, of internal hires happening much more at a much higher rate. And like I said, the pull-through of that, right? Those roles, when we hire internal versus external, happens at almost half the time, right? So you're a hiring manager, like, hey, I know how to cut your time to fill in half. You want to do that? Like, yeah, that's an easy sell.
Yeah.
So really huge impact. And I think it really has taken the idea and the aspiration that we had around internal mobility and made it easy and scalable for all.
Yeah.
We did it okay before, but we did it through like grit and tears and Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And now we get to do it in a way that impacts all employees, not just the people who happen to make the decisions. Like, I know somebody at that operating company, right? So I think it's a great way to scale.
Yeah.
I would add on a little bit on just the transparency. So leaving it in the hands of employees and managers. So I describe it as our internal LinkedIn. You can find people, you can network with people, jobs that you didn't know existed, matches that you wouldn't even have known that you would match for, project coordinator or something, an engineer, and you can match scores with. And so we're opening it up and leaving it in the hands with employees and managers. And I think that's what they were looking for. And it was really overall a high success rate.
And one of the things that I think is so important for folks to take away from some of that message right there, it was not a implement technology, turn on, problem solved, right? You looked at policy, right? Hey, why would I have this policy in place that is preventing people from applying to a role, right, across companies as soon as they start, right?
Yep.
What are some of the things I have to do relative to recruiter role change, process change, hiring manager role change, process change, behavior change, right? Because how maybe myself as a manager, oh my gosh, I just hired this person, now they can apply wherever they want?
Yeah.
Why did I spend all this time and energy hiring them, right? But it's for the betterment of the business as a whole and for the humans in the business, because then you can bring that data to them and say, yeah, but these people are going to drive tremendous business value because they're going to stay longer, they will be a higher performer, they will ramp that much faster to time to productivity. So can you share some of the lessons learned doing all that? Because that cannot have been easy to go get those managers. And
When you have a
people.
Linda, it's really tough.
And Kara. Well, I'll start off with some lessons learned. I would say that we went shopping and we did the due diligence, and I wanted to make sure that it matched, the vendor matched our culture. So we move fast, we innovate, and I wanted a vendor to see and talk to other customers to show that have they done that. And so I thought that shopping and that due diligence, I would say, and bringing, by the way, it wasn't just the tech team. So I brought the COEs, they were shopping with me. They came to Cultivate also 2 years ago, and so that was really important because it was their buy-in that this is not a technology done to them, but we're supporting your strategy, and as an entire organization, not just TA, but multiple HR representatives. So I thought that was really, really helpful. In regards to more lessons, I would say that I would have continued to upskill across HR, across all of our employees. That would have been really beneficial to continue that as well. What about you, Kara?
Yeah. I echo everything that you said to start. I think one of the things that I personally love about Fortive is we have a culture of better every day. And that also gives permission to not be perfect. And so I feel like sometimes people get stuck, especially with a big organizational change or a big technology implementation. It's like, well, we can't go until we know we have every single question answered. And it's like, that's not the way the world works. And so let's go. And there might be some things in our policy that we learn, like, ooh, that had an impact we weren't sure was right. Maybe we need to tweak that. Or, you know what, we set this piece of the technology up, and now that it's in action, like, Linda, how long will it take you to undo that thing that your team spent months working on for me?
Has happened.
Linda loves me, I promise. So it's like, that's okay, right? And so just willing to try and willing to move forward. I do think we're inside a culture that allows that, which is really great. But pressing forward and being willing to just take the first step. And it goes hand in hand, too, with thinking about the AI inside of Eightfold. I said to people often, like trying to get them into the system for the first time, just so you know, this will be the worst it ever is, which is a really weird sales pitch, but that's the truth. And we have all the metrics to show that, by the way, of it improving month over month, but it has to get to know us. All AI, you have to give it data. You have to let it learn you, your organization, the skills you hire for it to get smarter. And so to say, it didn't do what I wanted, I'm going to stop engaging, isn't helpful, right? So lean into it and keep working with it, and that's how you really see some accelerated progress.
Well, it's interesting. We had a conversation about the impact of a particular part of the process from a recruiter perspective. That's really important. So I want to talk about that for a minute. How many of you know about calibration? Show of hands, calibration. How many of you feel that your organization is really successful in calibrating all your roles? So not so many hands. And it's really an interesting topic because we know that the success of the matching is driven by the investment that you make in calibration. Yep. It's not a difficult process, yep, right? The tools are there to do it. But we talked about the fact that it's a behavioral change. And that behavioral change kind of drives the human performance and the outcomes of the system. So Linda, can you talk to us a little bit about that journey for Fortive?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think first off, the word calibration is a mystery. You don't know what that means. And so it really is refining what you're looking for. Give me examples of profiles of what you're looking for. So it's really a refinement. Again, it's not my word, but it's such a big word that people get a little bit scared of as well in regards of, I think, change management. Once we start showing them, this is really what you do. You show me 3 people that you think would be great for that role. Show me more. And so I would say like that's demystifying that is part of the first step. In regards of impact, we see that the more we calibrate month over month, which is a shout out to Eightfold because this is one of the vendors that brings us data and shows the value of the product. But month over month, we see that the more we calibrate, the faster time to fill is. So that is a real outcome to our managers and our recruiters to say, this will help you. The more you calibrate, the better quality and the faster we can get to hire someone. And so that really is, to me, really the value of calibration and ensuring that that role fits your company's need.
Yeah. Well, so Kara and Linda, Kara, you spoke about like the culture, being open to experimentation. And then Linda, we actually saw each other a few weeks ago when you were engaging with a number of executives who are leading HR transformation at other companies. There's a lot of conversation around how like change management as an approach or a messaging is not what fits the moment. It's actually business readiness or adoption readiness, right? How are you going to go out there and say, recruiters, managers, candidates, are you ready to adopt this new thing and start to behave differently? So can you share a little bit about how you all thought about that from an adoption readiness, a business readiness perspective to roll things out?
So maybe to answer that, I would even add to what Linda just said, because managers are humans too. Like they're people too, and they want their jobs to be easier. And like, what's easier, having a mediocre employee or a really great employee? Like, we love when we have great employees that work for us, right? It's like, it makes my job easy. Yeah. I like an easy job. And so when we think about what Linda just talked about, we directly see in the data, the better the rec is calibrated, the match score increases. When the match score increases, the time to fill decreases. And the thing that we need one more year to see, but I have a high degree of confidence we're going to see, is that when those things are all true, we also see higher performance from that person. So if I'm a manager and I can say, hey, listen, if I'm the recruiter talking to a manager, right, and I can say, listen, let's spend a little bit of time calibrating this rec because here's why. I'm going to get you a higher caliber person in this role. I'll get them to you faster. And by the way, a year from now, you will assess their performance higher than if we don't do this. That's a pretty easy sell, right? But you also have to give the recruiters that data, that understanding, because they're the ones that are the front line engaging with every manager. And change management happens so many times in that moment of conversation. And so they're the ones that maybe have to break a cycle that they've already had with that manager when it was like, no, no, you know this job. You filled it for me 10 times in the past. Just go ahead and email me some resumes. Don't do it through the system. You know I like the PDF and email, right? These are all the behaviors that you have to break. So you have to be helpful to the recruiters and give them the real why that a manager is willing to sign up to do something different.
Well, and what's a very easy, and this is not a hard add to the narrative, because you're going to go out there probably with a business outcome. Hey, I will take time to fill down and blah, 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 blah. And let me add briefly, the human outcome of that is manager, you can work easier, you can work smarter, you can spend less time firefighting because you have higher quality employees, more productive employees working for you, right? That's just the little add of the human outcome with the business outcome you're trying to drive.
Yeah,
no doubt.
there's one more thing to that, and it's as we look at the future, right? So as skills are rising or declining, it starts to have an impact. So those hiring managers who say, hey, you know what I need, right? Like with market changing or disruption, that's not as accurate, right? So the ability to then show them, use a system, play around with the calibration together, look at skills adjacencies, all of those become really augmentative in terms of being a strategic advisor. So I think those are pieces that we're starting to see that are really valuable.
And that's part of the thing, honestly, that we love about Eightfold is like I don't have to worry about constantly updating a job architecture. Right? It's learning and moving right along with us. So when that job rotates, 3 degrees every time we fill it, it tracks right along with us, and it takes the manual effort out of doing that.
And updates all of our candidates along the way, right? We can see new match scores while we readjust and move a couple of degrees this way and that way.
So what's next? What's next on the journey for you all?
Oh, it's a busy time at Fortive, as always. In the coming months, we're actually spinning part of our company into a new company. We're divesting about 40%, standing up a new company called Ralliant, a great company as well, and continuing with Eightfold, which I think that shows our investments, our confidence in our partnership with the product. And so that's really exciting. There are things that we haven't turned on yet. So we haven't turned on mentorship. There's a couple of things that we haven't turned on, and so we'll continue on that journey. And what I would tell you is it's been pretty simple to turn on. It isn't like a new implementation. So we turned on, as an example, courses to integrate with our learning system. That was a small sprint with Deloitte and with others in regards of. So there's a couple more areas.
Is now the right time for me to give you the plug for succession planning?
Very soon, very soon. And I think what's great, and this is part of the shopping as a tech team, is that how do I ensure that ongoing maintenance and changes isn't a huge undertaking, right? The tech debt is really critical for me. And the resources I need, the skill set I need. And so what's great is that we can turn some of these features on pretty straightforward. And the team has been able to do that in the last year and then more to come.
I agree with so many of the features. I think will really accelerate us as succession planning as an example, because it will be a pitch to Linda here. Got to use.
They are piloting it right now.
But right, we think across all of our businesses. As an example, we have 20 chief product officers, and right now inside of every one of those businesses, their HR leaders are succession planning for that one individual role. It's like we have the opportunity and the ability to actually see the strength of the overall pipeline, which we don't have today other than through some manual acrobatics that I don't really trust, quite honestly. So we really have an opportunity to accelerate and continue to scale, particularly as we think about bringing together TA and talent management more effectively into an integrated piece. So I'm very much excited for those. And then the cultural evolution that continues to come along with all of that, right? Behavior change of our leaders, behavior change of our employees, and really bringing to life the possibilities that exist with the technology we have today to really, like I go back to create a more equitable world where opportunity exists for all.
Well, it's been so exciting to hear about your journey and the transformation and the outcomes that you've been achieving. As we wrap this up, what advice would you have for those in the audience, how to start your journey?
I would say, you hear this a lot around just getting started. I would say that I've done tech and transformation multiple times now, and it's better to be on the other side. to see it live, because the more you spend time designing and theoretically and planning change management, the world is moving past you. And in that time, you can be learning. And so we're still learning. We're learning our workforce, and data is coming in. It doesn't mean you have to turn it on, right? So there's things that we'll turn on later, or, hey, we start piloting, experimenting for a smaller group of people, giving it in the hands of HR so they get used to it as well. And so getting on the other side, and as quickly as possible, getting onto the other side of it, launching. Kara's laughing at my speed, but I just continue to recommend that it's better to be on the other side.
No doubt about that. The other thing I would say is sometimes we find these tension points in our organization, especially when it's a big cultural move, like moving to an open talent marketplace, and it makes us want to shy away from that. My advice, lean into the tension. That tension can actually be a fuel for growth and for change. And so the more you can find those tension spots and use them as the catalyst to move forward, I think the faster you'll go, and you'll thank yourself, like Linda said, when you're on the other side.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. Linda and Kara, thank you so much for sharing the Fortive story. Hope you took a few insights away from that. Again, you all are business leaders trying to solve business issues and drive business outcomes. Make sure you keep that in mind on your journey, while also paired with the human outcomes that you're going to achieve at the same time. Thank you all, and thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.